Hello everyone and welcome back to another wonderful episode of the World Cement Podcast with me, your host, David Bisley, Senior Editor of World Cement. In this episode, I'm joined by Antonio Carrillo, Vice President of Sustainability at Holcim, and we're going to be exploring Holcim's sustainability and decarbonisation efforts, covering everything from carbon capture through to circular construction. I just wanted to take a moment to remind you to register for World Cement. It's free of charge and gives you access to the latest issues of World Cement, both in print and online. Every issue comes packed full of regional analysis, technical articles, project case studies, and the latest industry news. Simply head over to worldcement.com, click the magazine tab, and register today. It's as simple as that. Happy reading. Antonio, welcome to the World Cement Podcast. Glad to have you with us.
Thanks for having me on the podcast, David. It's great to be here.
Excellent. So Holcim's approach to sustainability covers a number of areas like climate, circularity, working around nature. And taking climate first, what are the key milestones that you're hoping to achieve over the next decade?
So indeed, as Holcim has recently launched its Next Gen Growth 2030 strategy, and it is not surprised that not only climate, but the whole sustainability remains being a strategic pillar of the strategy. And one clear message I'd like to pass is that this is not only the right thing to do for the people on the planet, but it's also a driver of profitable growth. And our strategy is sound. Let me tackle climate among the other topics. But by 2030, we aim to achieve industry-leading sustainability targets. First one is we're scaling our sustainable offering to meet the customer demands. We want to reach about 50% of the net sales from EcoPlanet and EcoPact, which are our low-carbon cements and concrete, respectively, by 2030. Also, with regards to circular construction, we will increase our construction demolition material volumes to 20 million tons by using our EcoCycle technology platform. And on climate, as per your question, and building on the foundation of having been, as Holcim, the first in the industry setting SBTi targets, aligned with the 1.5, we aim to reduce our net emissions below 400 kilos per ton of cementitious by 2030. This is equivalent to a 30% reduction versus 2020. As you briefly tackle, also to build a nature-positive future, we are aiming to reduce our freshwater withdrawal by 33% versus 2020.
Okay, excellent. And looking at some of the technologies involved across the board, carbon capture is expected to do a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to meeting climate targets in cement. How are Holcim's carbon capture projects progressing?
Carbon capture is going to help us get there for sure, but it's one of our main three drivers. The first one is low carbon formulation. Here we referring to the traditional levers. We aim to reduce our clinker factor from 70% in 2024 to 65% in 2030. And this reduction, together with the use of alternative raw materials, will help us to bring down our CO2 between 25 and 35 kilos by 2030 in that given period. And this is also going to help us bring significant cost savings per ton of the cement produced. So we'll keep on working on formulation. Second is energy, the good old alternative fuels. We aim to increase our alternative fuels use from 35% today, or 2024, to 50% in 2030. And these 15 percentage points of increase will also help us to reduce CO2 between 25 and 35 kilos and present additional significant savings in that given period. And then again, to your question, we have CCUS, among other innovative technologies. But in CCUS, we are now having, I guess, the broadest range of projects in execution, with 7 of those projects already awarded by the European Innovation Funds. We're referring to projects in Poland, in Germany, in France, Croatia, Greece, and Belgium. And the idea is to keep on working on those in the next few years. We have a clear target to provide to the market 8 million tons of near zero cement by 2030. This is the result of having captured by that year 5 million tons of CO2. And this is going to help us to also increase net sales from sustainable offerings through price premiums and obviously this rise in demand of near zero cements that we see in the market.
Okay. Another aspect of sort of Holcim's approach to sustainability is circularity, or the circular economy. Can you give me some examples of circular economy initiatives that you've been involved in?
Circularity or circular construction, as we want to refer now, I think it's a fundamental strategic aspect of Holcim, and I guess a key priority for the industry. Many facts: population growth, urbanization, and obviously existing limits on natural resources. So these circular solutions are going to be essential. We always put this equivalence in context. A city of Madrid is built every week in the world, and of course we need to bring circularity to the picture. And there is also the fact that I mentioned before is not only the right thing to do for those reasons I just explained, but there is also a growing market demand for circular solution. We aim to be at the forefront of driving circularity at a scale. In 2024, we've recycled 6.5 million tons of construction demolition materials. This is equivalent to more than 1,000 trucks loads per day. And now in this new strategy, as mentioned before, David, the ambition is to reach over 20 million tons of recycled CDM, construction demolition material, by 2030. For this, we have a clear target also of expanding our portfolio of recycling platforms to 150 plus by 2030. We're going to do that through organic growth, but also acquisitions. Today, we have already 98 plants in Europe. And the idea is really to use this construction demolition material in a number of forms. We can use the fines to incorporate it into the cement formulations. Of course, we can recycle concrete into recycled aggregates and bring this into the ready-mix formulation. We have for this our label of EcoCycle, and then we bring solutions to the market that range between 10 and 100% of construction demolition materials inside to bring these circularity products into the market.
Now, previously, cement producers have faced some challenges with demand when it came to greener cement products. Have you seen that market grow over recent years? And what are you doing at Holcim to promote the uptake of greener construction products?
We've definitely seen this customer demand growing for sustainable offering. This is actually the reason why we see the increase on EcoPact and EcoPlanet's share of sales in the respective categories to new highs in Q1 2025, 29% respectively. So definitely the demand is there. What is the driving factor of this? We see two main aspects. One is the enhanced building norms and regulation that are actually moving the needle in jurisdictions. Also see customers that are more advanced in the journey of decarbonizing their companies, and they basically seek for a clear low carbon products to support the reduction of the scope 3 emissions. It is happening in Europe. In Europe, it's probably clearer. We see a strong demand for our sustainable offering that has consistently been driving profitable growth, and we do expect this to continue in the years to come. But it's probably the positive note as well is that we see this uptake as being accelerated in other parts of the world, mainly in Asia, Middle East, Africa, and the recent quarter. The future looks bright for sustainable offering. And on top of that, there is a lot of new aspects in the regulatory landscape and or framework landscape, such as the low carbon ratings initiative that has been launched by the Global Cement and Concrete Association to standardize the concept of low carbon cements and concrete. So we see this as taking more and more traction.
Now, Holcim also places a focus on supporting nature. So can you tell me a bit about your strategy for nature and what are the key areas that you're focusing on?
Yeah, look, nature, we want to refer to nature as the new climate. We see a lot of signs of everything that happened in the framework, in the climate frameworks are being replicated now in nature. I mean, it is not a surprise. Nature is the foundation of our business and life. And of course, it's a moral obligation.
Sure.
But also bringing the economics, more than half of the global GDP depends on nature. So it is no brainer. It's actually part of the strategy of Holcim. Three main pillars within this one. We work on water, on biodiversity, and more recently on bringing nature-based solutions to the cities. We're referring to green roofs and all the solutions that basically help to bring nature into the built environment. In water, we have this clear target of reducing our freshwater withdrawal by 33% by 2030 versus 2020 as a baseline, with credible organizations to validate this ambition. Holcim was recently named by the Science Based Target Network, the SBTN, as one of the very first 3 companies globally to adopt science-based targets for nature. We announced that at the COP16 convention back in Cali. And we keep on working on fresh water. This is also an aspect that we have linked to the compensation of our senior leaders. In biodiversity, we have a very comprehensive approach. Here we aim to achieve a measurable positive impact on biodiversity across our quarries. And I guess the first question when you go into this statement is, how do you measure that? And that is why the first thing we did already back in the days was to partner with another credible organization, IUCN, to develop what we call BEARS, is the Biodiversity Indicator Reporting System. This is a tool that allows us to basically measure the baseline of biodiversity in every individual quarry. And then through a number of actions and interventions, we can measure how this indicator is evolving, is increasing. And that is basically our approach to obviously have a positive impact on biodiversity across the quarries. And lastly, and the most recent is the green roofs. So a range of companies and brands in our portfolio like Cinco that bring these kind of green roofs and nature-related solutions to the market. And that's a new frontier to really make it also part of the sustainability offering to our customers.
Okay, excellent. Decarbonisation and creating a sustainable cement industry are sort of enormous, almost generational challenges. And we've touched on this a little bit in your previous answer just now, actually. But how does Holcim view the role of collaboration and partnership in terms of being able to overcome these challenges?
Fundamental. I think collaboration is a fundamental part of this to make it happen. We like to say that partnership is the new leadership, but this is more than a tagline, it's a reality.
Sure.
When it comes to decarbonizing the built environment and the adoption at a scale of all these sustainable offerings we just mentioned, the only way to do it is to partner across the value chain, from architects to developers to contractors and owners to drive this change. So there are innovations in place that have a lot of potential for a higher uptake. And in order to accelerate this adoption, we need to work on those engagements. Not only on the value chain, there's also a lot of work to do in the advocacy and the adoption of norms, but collaboration, fundamental. What do we do at Holcim? Well, there's a range of practices. I like to probably start with the Holcim Foundation for Sustainable Construction. This is a foundation that Holcim put in place a couple of decades ago and help us to bring these relationships in motion and to help this strategic leadership in driving implementation. But also, if you just focus a little bit more within our operations, collaboration is also key to accelerate innovation.
Sure.
When it comes to clean technologies, we discuss about carbon capture implementation requires collaboration within the ecosystem of this technology from the companies that are going to use the CO2, if you're referring to utilization,
sure,
to the transportation means to bring that up, et cetera, et cetera. And also when it comes to all the clean technologies, we have a wide range of decarbonization technologies that are also centered around our open innovation ecosystem. And for this, we have a branch called Maker Ventures, Holcim Maker Ventures, through which we assess more than 500 startups annually. And with this corporate venture capital unit, we aim to scale these groundbreaking technologies in the built environment and then also to collaborate with those startups to bring that change at scale.
Excellent. Now, turning to policy and legislation, which I think in one of your answers earlier you touched on a little bit. Obviously, Holcim operates around the world in varying jurisdictions, but in general terms, what are the kinds of policies or legislation that you think are the most beneficial to supporting the transition to net zero for cement? And are there any examples of successful policies, things that you think have worked really well that you'd like to see replicated elsewhere, perhaps?
This is, David, a crucial item, as mentioned before. I think we have two sets of these, and at Holcim, we are actively addressing both global and local specific policies, as well through close collaboration with policymakers, partners, and key stakeholders, but also with the value chain. I think if you want me to highlight, probably Europe has currently the most advanced decarbonization policies and regulations that facilitate this change. I'm obviously referring to the EU ETS, to the European Union Emissions Trading Scheme. which has probably been the first major carbon market that helped incentivizing these investments into lower emissions. That in itself is now evolving with the implementation of the CBAM. This is carbon border adjustment mechanism. So there's going to be the next step of this policy, but that's undoubtedly brought change and helped decarbonize industry in Europe big time. But then you have also other incentives like the Innovation Fund, the European Innovation Fund. We did refer about it when we were discussing the CCUS. It's been fundamental, the support to really scale up the number of projects in execution. And this is probably the main reference that we see at a regional scale. We see EU ETS being somehow replicated in other jurisdictions, countries. Mexico is adopting a very similar approach, and we expect this to probably be the reference for LATAM in the future. But I would also like to bring local changes, local norms that have basically been very effective in bringing change. We were referring before on circular construction to EcoCycle, and the origin of this was a very local norm in Zurich, in the city of Zurich, that was requiring companies that aim to participate in public procurement to have a minimum content of recycled waste or materials. And that's a little bit how the predecessor of EcoCycle, which we call Susteno, started to be in motion. We tonal norm, building norm, posed a challenge. We took it, we developed this product, and after years of advocacy, proactive advocacy, is now in operation in many countries. So also small changes can be very effective without the need of big schemes.
Excellent. Now, thinking ahead to all of the new products and technologies coming online over the next few years, and I think you touched on this a bit in your discussion of collaboration as well. How is Holcim integrating sustainability into its R&D process?
Look, it goes hand by hand. You cannot see sustainability without innovation, and it is clear on the way our innovation center and colleagues around the Holcim family is working. Significant part of all the innovations we have in-house are related to sustainability. We cannot continue to advance and move the needle without active innovation. And the way we approach it, I think I also briefly mentioned, it's in a twofold. We have an in-house best-in-class innovation center and teams that are actively working on new formulations and advanced formulations. We have those decarbonization expert teams working on the execution of our carbon capture projects. But we also have this focus on open innovation through the Holcim Make a Venture branch. Basically monitors on an annual basis more than 500 startups to try to identify that technology that could actually bring a breakthrough in the way we build today. Definitely innovation and sustainability go together.
So it's sort of intrinsically linked there. Then sticking with the theme of technology for a little bit longer, which new technologies and breakthroughs do you think are the most exciting? And where do you think we'll see the biggest developments in that field in the next 5 or 10 years?
All of them. I cannot, I think we've gone through a lot, David. My reflection on this question is we have the privilege of living the most exciting time for our industry, in my opinion, and not only living, but being an active part of it. Some of the biggest developments for the next few years have been already drafted in any of the concepts of our plant of tomorrow, from efficiencies, integrating state-of-the-art technologies, artificial intelligence, digitalization, and being able to eventually produce net zero cements and net zero concrete at a scale, because this is already possible today, but we are looking at doing it at a scale.
Sure.
What I expect in the next few years is to see how these plants are basically getting executed and being a reality.
Okay, excellent. So as we wrap things up for this episode of the World Cement Podcast, Antonio, do you have any final thoughts for our audience today?
If there is one message I'd like to leave with your audience, is that decarbonizing the built environment is not only an idea, it's not only possible, it's already happening. At Holcim, we see this as once in a generation opportunity to reinvent how the world builds, to make it more sustainable, more circular, more inclusive, and proud of being part of this transformation with innovation, with collaboration, and with a clear sense of purpose. We invite everyone, industry partners, policymakers, communities, and any stakeholder to be part of this journey with us. Thanks again for having me on the podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Well, Antonio, thank you for joining us today. That does about wrap things up for this episode of the World Cement podcast. Thank you again, Antonio, for sharing your insights and exploring Holcim's approach to sustainability with us. And as always, a big thank you to everyone in our audience too. If you like this episode, make sure to rate, review, and subscribe. And if you haven't already done so, make sure to go back and check out some of our other excellent episodes as well. We're racking up quite a bit of a back catalogue now, and it's all definitely worth checking out. Thank you, and goodbye for now. I just wanted to take a moment to remind you to register for World Cement. It's free of charge and gives you access to the latest issues of World Cement, both in print and online. Every issue comes packed full of regional analysis, technical articles, project case studies, and the latest industry news. Simply head over to worldcement.com, click the magazine tab, and register today. It's as simple as that. Happy reading.